The war is over. The Stonehouse Series, Chapter 62. Out of the guardian's habit, Uriah initiated a full spirit, soul, and body diagnosis scan. Spirit and soul, of course, were gone. The physical portion, the mind, had been functioning at 18.7%. Viewing this, Uriah wondered why his commander ever allowed himself to be placed within one of these fragile and so terribly limited bodies. He switched to DNA sequencing to identify body characteristics and heritage. Father, Almighty God. I can't go any farther back than that. Next, he identified the mother. Mary. Of course, I already knew that. He then traced markers of the mother's contributing DNA back through King David. The following step was to consider cause of death. He started at the blood supply, and it was depleted to 4% of its original volume. From where he stood, and without touching the body, he began a visual layer by layer observation. The tearing caused by a spiked whip had been excessively brutal. Lacerations covered the form from head to foot. A spear thrust had been a center hit on the liver, slicing up through the diaphragm, increasing the bottom lobe of one lung and almost severing the left lung in half. The pericardium surrounding the heart was still engorged with fluid and would have exerted extreme pressure on its functional pumping before death. Any one of a dozen conditions could be listed as cause of death. Turning back to the inhabitants of hell, Jesus continued walking towards the redeemed. From the perspective of the watchers, Jesus walked up a ramp that they couldn't see and then went over the iron fence. He kept on walking over the fence and above the pit on a bridge that wasn't there. Once Jesus was standing about midway across the pit and slightly higher than the iron fence. He stopped and he addressed his people. In a moment we are leaving this place. Once we are gone, I must first stop by the tomb to collect my earth suit, which will then be transformed into my heaven suit. I have a few chores to complete there, and then I will take you to my Father. With my Father, I must complete my duties as high priest of the new covenant for it to be set into motion. And then you too will be born of my Father. Jesus gave his words a moment to be planted into the garden of those who listened, and then he continued on. Considering this is a one-time event, I am also giving you a one-time opportunity. Some of you may desire to look in on those who are close to your heart and still walk upon the earth. You have a short time to do so. For those of you who choose to take the scenic route to my Father, do not be concerned about getting lost along the way. You will be tied to me, and I will pull you to my Father. Come, Jesus said, and he stretched out his hand. Instantly, a line of light connected from Jesus to each and every person that he had purchased. Not one was missed or forgotten. Every spirit in the place of protection was immediately connected to Jesus by a line of light. The very next moment, the millions of watchers found themselves above the city of Jerusalem very early in the morning. Uriah went back to DNA sequencing to confirm that the son of David, who had carried a curse, was not in the ancestry. Nope, not there. But I already knew that too. Looking again at the brain's function capacity at just 18.7%, Uriah was lost in thought. When the ground beneath his feet shook and the digital input that he had been observing spiked off the charts past 100% brain capacity, a blast of white light threw him back against the cave wall. "Wow!" Uriah shouted. "Jesus, Master, Lord, you're back!" Jesus sat up, pulling a towel-like cover off of his face. "Catch you napping, did I, Uriah?" He tossed the towel to Uriah and continued. "Almost 34 years. And I only see you one time, in the garden 4 days ago. Where have you been?" Uriah folded the towel neatly and set it down. "I was never more than 10 steps from you, my lord, up to the I am mark that you gave me. You just never needed much help, that's all." "Do you have the earth clothes that I told you to bring?" "Yes, sir," Uriah answered, handing the bundle to his commander-in-chief. "But I don't understand why you want these." "Earth rules. I still have a couple of chores to complete here before I go to my father." Jesus continued, "Would you like to make an announcement to the guards outside that we have won?" "Yes, sir," Uriah responded with a little too much excitement. Yes, sir, it would be an honor to do so." "Okay, these are the rules of engagement. You can startle them to the point where they pass out, but don't touch them. Clear?" "Can do, Captain," said Uriah with a grin on his face. "Ready?" "Ready," answered Jesus. "Go for it." Uriah focused his energy and drove his heels into the ground floor so hard that he split the earth and shot up through the cave roof without even disturbing one grain of sand. He blasted up through the sky to the place where almost all oxygen is gone, and he adjusted his brightness level to full illumination. Next, he focused on the soldiers guarding the tomb, and he fired straight back to the earth, looking like a flaming missile. To the soldiers guarding the tomb, they were first shocked to an adrenaline rush by the trembling of an earthquake. Next, a sonic boom that rattled each rib cage caused them to step back and look up. To see what? A flaming meteor heading straight for them with maybe 2 seconds to impact. Their elite warrior Bravo melted like wax as they froze in fear. The 2 seconds till death turned to 3 as the white-hot meteor slowed down and then transformed before their eyes into a flaming warrior. Being backdropped by a dark blue pre-dawn sky only accentuated Uriah's re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. His heavy impact arrival jarred the bones of the now panicked soldiers who watched this heavenly warrior snarl at them, and with one hand he rolled away the giant stone covering the cave door. Next, Uriah drew his sword and swung it at the face of each shaking soldier who, as the blade passed by, just fell down. Observing his workmanship over his shoulder, Uriah stepped back down into the cave. Jesus had been watching the spectacle from inside the cave and took note of the look of satisfaction covering the face of his faithful friend. "Feeling a little better now, are we?" "Yes, sir. Better, yes, sir. Just need to burn off a little steam. I didn't touch one of them, but they all fell down." Jesus said, "Choose one from your team and stay here at the tomb for 1 hour. To those who come looking for me, tell them that I have risen and that I will meet with them in Galilee." And what of the cloud of millions who are watching us and waiting for you in the sky above? I recognize several: David, Mordecai, Queen Esther, and many others. Oh, you saw them? Kind of hard to miss. Well, I am taking them to my Father. They are all the faithful ones whose bodies died before today.